on this computer.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this month's Land Down Under Hangout with the comic of the month. This month we did Sunstone number 6 or Sunstone Mercy, depending on how you want to see it. We all read Sunstone together, or at least the first 2 together, and most of us did continue on. 2 years ago?
Yeah, it was
I think
about
we did
2
it
years
3 years ago?
No, 2, I think.
3. When was Brisbane?
3 years
wow.
ago, dude. It's our anniversary next month. It's fine.
Oh,
Yeah, so 3 years
wow.
ago. I'm pretty sure it's 3. So this is a story about 2 separate characters, and their sort of story of how they got together. So I'm going to start off because I started, because I was big and brave. So I really enjoyed this story. I like seeing more of the history of some of the characters we already know and love, as well as more of the story of these other 2 characters that we're getting to know. And while it didn't give us a lot of information about the relationship they're in now, it gave us a bit more scope of the relationships they've had and how that formed not just the characters that we've loved in the previous comics, but how it's going to form them, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty much it.
Kirsten, your turn.
So I read, I think, only the first one way back. I didn't realise it was 3 years ago now. I don't feel so guilty about having forgotten most of it. Like, I'd remembered that I enjoyed it and I remembered the gist of it, but I was like, oh, I don't remember it well enough to read anything else without rereading it. So when I sat down to read,
in the front of Mercy, forget about what happened in Sunstone.
I know, but like, I'm too anal for that. I'm like, I need to read things in order. Even if it's a spin-off that doesn't have anything, I need to read it in order. So I did, and I'm glad I did, because I hadn't read the others. Like, I'd read number 1, I hadn't read any of the others. Like, it was one of those ones where I was like, yes, I'm going to do that, and then it didn't happen. So I'm glad that I did that, because I really enjoyed the first 5. I actually didn't like number 6 as much as the first 5, but that's probably my thing about getting to know characters over a long period of time and then getting attached to those characters, and now you've given me other characters that are not the ones that I was so invested in as much. But I did really enjoy it, and I did like I've forgotten everybody's names again, but I did like seeing that backstory of how those 2 sort of got together.
Anne.
Pardon?
Alan and Anne?
Yes, Alan and Anne, yeah.
But it was also a lot about Alan and I've forgotten her name.
Alison.
Ali, yes, thank you. Alan and Ali. See, then no wonder I'm forgetting. I'm like, oh. Yeah, like, I liked seeing how their friendship developed and where it sort of was, and yeah, I enjoyed it. I'm probably going into too much detail for a recap thing, but anyway. I did enjoy it a lot, but I also had just come off, like, I literally read it straight after number 5, and I was like, oh, I liked number 5 more than I liked number 6. But yeah.
Well, the relationship that we're reading about in number 5 is a lot more developed than the relationships we're reading about in number 6 as well.
And that's just me. That's just me with any, and you know, that's why I read fantasy books that have like 12 books in a series, because I like that development of character and getting to know people over a long period of time. And probably if I read 6 books with these characters, I'd be just as invested in them. I don't think it's the characters or the story it's just that I was like not as invested in those characters as I was in the main characters from the other stories. But I still really enjoyed it, and I binged it pretty much, which was partly because I was like, oh crap, I have to read it in time for the hangout. But I probably would have done that anyway, because I was really enjoying it. So yeah. Nobody else?
Karina?
I really enjoyed it. That's really all I've got for you. Like, I don't know what else to say. Yeah, no, I liked going back to these characters that we haven't sort of visited in a little while. And like Naomi, I enjoyed getting a little bit more of their background than we had previously. Like, I know that we know where we're going, but I still enjoyed getting that backstory. It was good.
Elizabeth?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it too. So I had not read any of them before this came up for book club, so I read the whole lot. I found the structure of this volume particularly interesting for a number of different reasons, and I thought it was very effective overall. It's very much a story that's like about the journey rather than the destination. So you pretty much know how it's going to end up from the previous comics, and also just from the way it starts, the way it opens. Even if you'd not read any of the others, you would still know how the story ends. So I thought that was quite interesting, especially because the rest of the volume is nowhere near that yet. As they said, it's going to be a long story, and you can see that they're just building the foundations there. So I found that quite interesting. So overall I really enjoyed it, and I feel like it made Alan a slightly more sympathetic character because you get more of his perspective.
Yeah, definitely that.
Yeah, agreed.
Mel.
I'm actually more with Kirsten on this one. I gave it 3 stars. It's not that I didn't enjoy it. It's just more like, I actually think I disagree with Elizabeth on the structure thing. I actually would have preferred if we had more current time structure interspersed with the back story, to sort of tie me to what I've already got established in my head in terms of their connections and current relationship. Because I feel like we didn't get very much of that in the first 5 anyway. Like, they deliberately were very light on what happened there so that he could come and tell the story now, which is fine. I was all good with that. But coming in now and just purely getting backstory, honestly, reading about Alan and Ali just made me feel extremely uncomfortable, because I was just like your best friend telling you extremely intimate details about your other best friend, and I'm like, please stop. I don't want to see Alan's penis.
I actually really enjoyed the Alan and Ali, because they both had a really good understanding that this was just a experiment for them. Like, they both love each other as best friends, but nothing else. And you knew it wasn't going to turn into and they ended up falling in love anyway.
Yeah,
they both knew how they felt for one another.
Yeah,
and I love the fact that they feel comfortable enough with one another and with what they want to do, that they can feel like they can be that sort of open with one another.
I think my problem comes back to the fact that maybe it is a lack of romance around their sex scenes. I've got no problems with them doing it. I've got no problems with their reasons, and I think they do it in a very well way. I think very well done way in that they understand where each other is coming from and what they want to get out of it. That they're friends.
You want the chocolates and flowers.
Unfortunately, while I'm getting graphic sex, yes, I do. I'm absolutely fine having sex. I don't want to see said sex when it's not chocolates and flowers, if that makes sense. I think that's what it was, because I didn't mind.
You can want that.
Yeah, I can mind it with. I didn't mind it with Anne at all. I mean, that was fine. I was a little bit like, yeah, okay, cool. I wasn't really into it, but it didn't bother me. Whereas with Alan and Ali, I was just like, dudes, reserve a little detail here.
So yeah, I think that was one of the things that I really liked about it, because you get a lot of let me rephrase that. You get some romantic asexual stories, just a few, whereas you don't often see, even less than that, you see sexual but non-romantic relationships in that sort of way, and I kind of really appreciated that, actually, especially since their friendship is so solid.
No, that actually makes sense though, because that what actually means is what it's clashing against is my pan side, not my pan side, my demisexual side, in that I don't really much like sex unless I am fully into someone. Like, I don't do casual, I don't do any of that sort of stuff. And so perhaps that's what it comes down to, is really just it's clashing against that particular side of myself, where I'm just like, why would you do that?
Mm.
Lots of people do.
I think sorry, the opposite of that.
I missed that. Sorry.
I'm so the opposite of that.
Yeah. Which, like I said, like I get that lots of people do it, and that's fine, and I get why people would enjoy the book. I just, yeah, for me it was a bit of a let's just skip those pages quickly.
See, that didn't worry me at all. My problem with it was I got to the last page and I was like, where the fuck is the rest of it? Honestly, I was like,
a prude, though.
is that it? Like,
Always
was I kind of,
that way with comics, though.
yeah. I was
That's why I'm really annoyed I can't find the next Witch Boy comic. Like, can't find it anywhere. So annoyed. I want to know what happens next. Give it to me.
See, I was kind of like, I come off reading 5, and like I was reading when I sent the thing to you guys last week saying like I'm not getting here in time, because I was like, oh yeah, like I'd read, I think, reread 1, read 2, and read 3 all in one night. Admittedly, I didn't go to bed until really late, but I'd read all of those, and then I'd been reading 4 through the next day, and I was like, oh, that's all right, I've only got 5, and then I'm like, I'd been reading and I'd only halfway through 5, and I was like, oh man, 5 was really long, and I felt like you got a lot out of it, and then this one felt really short compared to number 5, and I was like expecting to get more story and I think, I can't remember who it was that said like more of the current relationship and how that happened.
Yeah, that's what
I enjoyed the backstory with Alan and Ali. I enjoyed the backstory with Anne and the other girl, whose name I can't remember.
Laura.
Thank you. I'll never remember anybody's names. I can't remember real people's names, so I'm not going to remember characters.
I just finished my reread like 10 minutes before the hangout, so I'm at an advantage here.
But I was expecting, I guess it's going to structure. I was like, okay, so they're doing this interviewee kind of structure, right? It's jumping from this person to that person, which was jarring for me at first, but then I got used to it, so I was fine with that. But I was expecting to get, here's my backstory, and then here's the story of how we got together, because you kind of got a little bit of, oh, hey, they're together in the other comics, but you didn't really get the story of like how that all exactly happened and when it, like, because in this one they're obviously further in the future because she's like pregnant, right?
Yeah.
So like I want that in between. I want that bit too.
Okay.
I assume we're going to get that.
Yeah. Did you expect that it would just be a single volume of their story?
Yes, I think that's probably what my problem was, because I was like, oh, this is a spin-off. They're just going to do a 1-volume comic about these characters, and then they'll do a 1-volume comic about those characters. And so that's probably my own fault that I didn't look into it enough to know what to expect.
See, I had another answer for why I thought you might have thought number 5 was much longer, and it was because it was so freaking wordy.
Maybe.
He is very wordy. Like,
yeah, but number 5 is extremely wordy. Yeah. Like it because they're doing so much explaining and backstory and imagining scenes and things like that. Like number 5 is extraordinarily wordy for him. And then I feel like number 6 goes back to his more typical style of truly wordy, but nowhere near to that epic levels of it.
And that's probably it too, because Matt's always saying that I don't read comics properly because I don't spend enough time looking at the art. And I'm like, I do look at it. I'm the same in a ordinary book. I'm very dialogue driven when I read, and I am guilty of sometimes glossing over things that are not dialogue, and I have to make myself not do that because sometimes it bites me in the bum, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? I have to go back and actually pay attention to the parts that are not dialogue. So I know that's really bad, and that makes me not a good reader, but that's the way I read, and I think that's what's happened here. Is it's like the ones that are really picture, but lots of art, I'm like, I look at it, then I go, it doesn't take me long to look at it. It's Matt's like, no, I look at the art for a long time. I'm like, I know I should do that, but I don't. So yeah, if it's wordy, it takes me longer. So that could be why it took me ages to read number 5.
Ooh, there's a cover for number 7.
Yeah, he was speaking on Twitter about working on the volume just recently.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I actually kind of like his publishing style of where he just produces the whole thing rather than doing the little issues along the way. But at the same time, it makes for a very long wait.
It's only been, a year between volumes, which I guess is a long time in comics, but I mean, pretty standard for publishing.
Well, actually, if you compare it to volumes instead of issues, actually it's pretty on par.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Would you
that's a
say
good
so,
point.
Naomi?
1 minute.
She's eating food and she's muted. Bad time to ask a question. Sorry.
No, you're still muted. There we go. You're back.
Yeah, that seems about right. Like that would be about what I would expect, like a year for a volume of comic.
Yeah.
Because it's not just an issue like that you would get like weekly or bi-weekly. Like it's a full volume.
Yeah.
Sorry,
And
I'm trying to get this.
it's probably even quite heavy on the volume side of things, really.
Yes.
Yeah.
And add into the fact that like it's quite detailed artwork that he does. Like a lot of comics that the way they work, they do quite more casual art in the between bits, and then they'll have a couple of really detailed pieces.
Yeah.
He does the detailed pieces, but his in between work is really quite detailed as well.
Mhm. Yeah, I would agree with
See?
that.
Matt, no wonder Matt's upset with you for not
I
appreciating
know, I
the
do
art.
look at it. I just don't spend like 10 minutes looking at one picture.
I agree,
but
though.
I
I'm the same,
I do
actually.
appreciate it, and I have actually a few times been in this book gone, oh wow, that's just such good art. So it's not like I don't appreciate it. I don't linger over it, but the same way that he probably would. But yeah. And I'm not just talking about this comic. I'm talking about just comics in general.
Yeah, no, I realise that.
I get into trouble. He's like, "Oh, you're so fast. You go through it so quickly."
Should we talk
Because I
about
need
Alan?
to find out what's happening.
Yes. That's my thing. I actually find with comics like this where I like the artwork, I will actually deliberately read it twice. Because the first time will be a read through just to get the story, because I'm like, what's going to happen?
Yeah,
and then
that's
the second time
problem.
will be more appreciation. So
It's not because it's not that I'm going, oh, I don't care about the art. It's like I'm like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? What's going to happen? Oh, yep. You know, so yeah, maybe that's what I need to do is reread things. And I did enjoy rereading the volume 1 actually, and I was glad that I reread it. So,
in fact, I'm actually kind of glad that we're into Mercy now, because when I first read it, I actually read it back in January. I actually did a reread of Sunstone then, the whole thing.
Mhm.
And now that we're into Mercy, I'm like, oh, thank God I don't have to reread all of Sunstone every time I do right now.
You reached the save point.
yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Partway through the game, and it's like, this is the spot I can come back to from now on.
Yeah. That's a good
All
point.
right. Should we talk about Alan and Ali first, since we've sort of started that a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
So Elizabeth had some good points about the fact that it showed a different style of relationship, and I can certainly appreciate the fact that it was really good for them to have a safe space to explore their interest in BDSM.
I feel like especially when you're sort of that age, like being into something like that immediately labels you as the weird person or sex crazed or whatever it is. So having someone that you can safely explore that with, that you feel comfortable with, because I feel like especially for women, but not necessarily, a woman that's into that sort of thing may put themselves in a more dangerous position just so that they can experience things.
True.
Yeah. And she was at the beginning, like, it was just, I need someone to talk to. I need someone who will understand when I talk to them. You know, it didn't even start out as being the experimenting, the sexual stuff. It was just like, she was like, I just like someone.
Yeah, like she honestly said that this is about me just wanting to have someone to talk to.
Yeah.
And to be real with, like someone to be myself with.
Yeah.
Which I totally get that side of things 100%. So that made a lot of sense
I
to
thought
me.
they did a good job of, like, because we're so familiar with Ali from the previous volumes, but to show things from Alan's perspective and to see, like, just how kind of weird it is to be approached by Ali and what she's like from a slightly different perspective. I thought that was really well done.
Because he's had that sort of experience of, you know, girls making fun of him and like, do you want to show me how to tie knots or blah, blah, blah. Like, he's so in that position where he's like, please go away now. Nobody wants you.
Yeah.
I did wonder with that whole plotline whether that was a cultural difference with America or whether it was just not very believable in general. But I was like, I can't imagine that sort of shit happening when I was at university. I don't know whether I could imagine it happening in high school. I couldn't imagine something like that happening. He was at a university, right? They were in college.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm sure that if someone did that when I was at university, people would either be like, man, that's really cool art, or they'd be like, or they'd be just like, whatever. You know, I can't imagine that.
It was the long prolonged version of it. Like I can believe that someone would spot it, especially given the circumstances that happened around, even though that seemed a little bit over the top as well. The teasing and that sort of stuff I could believe, but 2 months worth,
yeah,
and
like
being asked to leave because of it as well, like that bit really blew me off.
Yeah.
I was just like, what?
Yeah, I thought that was very American. I was like, nah, you wouldn't get away with that here. Like, and I think, I don't know, I still reckon, like, I could see someone stealing his work and sticking it up on the wall happening, but I couldn't see that universal backlash happening. In fact, I would imagine that even if some people were having a go at him about it, there would have been just as many people defending him.
I did think that was perhaps in the eye of the beholder.
And
he felt
maybe
like
I'm being
it was
optimistic, I don't know, but
like, you know,
I feel like maybe it's worse over in the States because they do have that very mentality of like
Puritan.
It's still a bit high schooly where they're like in their cliques of being in, you know, whatever their sororities are or whatever.
Yeah. And he's away, and because they often leave home to go to college, they're without their traditional sports support system. But I still feel like it was overdone. But I feel like perhaps some of that was also in his head. Like, you know, when something happens to you like that, where it's truly embarrassing, and you feel like just everybody's making fun of you just because a few people are making fun of you.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You do sort of see it differently than maybe. Like it seems like everyone's looking at you, and really, nobody's probably noticed you.
And the only reason I feel like that possibly wasn't the case was purely because they asked him to leave for the period of time rather than the person who was doing it. Which, like, what the fuck? But like, that's the only thing that made you feel like it was a big deal. Other than that, I would have said, you know what? I feel like this is a unreliable narrator situation where because he's experiencing it, he feels like everybody is knowing about it and teasing about it and all of that. But because she sent him out, it was like, what is actually happening here? Like, why?
I feel like it's a bit more, they're a lot more religious over there.
Like, true.
And that's what I was saying. I think it may be a cultural difference because I feel like, and maybe it depends on, like, I mean, maybe it depends on what you're studying at uni. I don't know, but like, I felt like
I feel like at a general university, like that, you wouldn't be the person asked to leave.
No, and I felt like the majority of people that I came in contact with at uni were quite left-leaning politically. You know, like that would be much more
in Australia.
Yeah, in Australia. I don't think most people would react with disgust at seeing that. I reckon a lot of the people I knew at uni would be like, wow, look how cool this art is. Like, he's really good. He's really talented. Like, that would be the reaction rather than the like, oh. But then maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm being optimistic and I'm I'm thinking about things at this time rather than 20 years ago. I don't know. I don't know when the time of this is set either, but I feel like
it's reasonably modern. They do have mobile phones.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I've heard about teachers getting fired for having a photo of them with a glass of wine on Facebook in America as well. And
that's true.
Really, if they fired every teacher that had a glass of wine on their Facebook profile in Australia, they would have a much more serious issue with teacher shortage than they already do. Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe it is a cultural thing that yeah.
Regardless, it was the situation they presented us with. I do feel like, though, given what we know of Alan, both from Sunstone as well as this episode, I feel like he must have some difficulties in the mental area. Whether it's depression or isolation or things along those lines, I'm not quite sure, but I feel like he's definitely, not severely, but definitely struggling a little bit in that area, because he didn't seem to have the ability. Well, he's definitely isolated. We know that, at least in this historical context. But we also know that even from Sunstone, he was isolated and feeling depressed at that period of time from his situation. So he just seems to have a history of that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think
that's kind of putting the cart before the horse, though. Like, I feel like his depression and isolation in Sunstone was more like the outcome of these terrible things that had happened to him.
I would agree, except for actually in the historical part of Mercy, because when we first encounter him after this has all happened to him, he says his only friend is I have forgotten her name. I can't remember his friend's name, but that's his only friend is that guy.
Oh yeah, I forgot that too. His name.
And I'm like, okay, if you had said I'd lost friends because of this happening, that would be different. But no, the only person he's got who is a friend is this guy, who he has an extremely circumstantial relationship. We know it develops into more and becomes a lifetime friendship, and this guy's pretty cool. But the fact of the matter is that it's very muchly not a relationship that's based on mutual interest or anything along those lines. He doesn't have a friendship group because he didn't lose them when they didn't disappear and they're not supporting him. So I feel like there is some sort of history there of problems.
That could also be just a circumstantial thing as well of, if he's just started college, he's moved away from all his high school friends. If his high school friends didn't go to that college, like I was like that at uni. I had no friends pretty much. And
but I feel like that happens.
It was
more
because I just never it would be. I reckon it'd be harder. I reckon it'd be harder in this. Like, it does probably happen more in Australia because you don't have like dorm rooms of people that always see each other all the time.
Yeah.
And like I hardly had the same people in my class. It wasn't always that I had the same people in my class and that sort of thing. So, and I'm not very outgoing, but maybe it was a thing like he didn't have any friendships from his previous, high school friends or whatever. He's moved into this new place and he doesn't feel like he can open up to people. Maybe he's worried about, if this is the reaction he gets to his notebook, then maybe he's worried that everyone thinks he's a freak and he's afraid to open up and be himself with people. And
I've actually just realised Alan's actually kind of one note. Like, especially in those early years, if you think about him, apart from his interest in BDSM and like specifically creating artwork around it, what other interests does he have? Like, Ali is into computers and gaming and other things other than BDSM.
Yeah. And that would be, and maybe that's the thing that, like, in the previous books, you could go, well, that's fair enough because you're only seeing it from her point of view.
Exactly.
But now you're getting his point of view. It's like maybe we should be seeing more.
Okay, I would like to interject here maybe a little bit. I'm wondering whether the dual perspective of this volume cuts down an opportunity for that.
Possibly so. I mean, we're talking one book out of possibly something like 5 books.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm not to say that this is not going to improve or change.
Mm-hmm.
I just hadn't realised until right that second. I was like, no wonder he's a loner. He's literally only interest that he's expressed at this point in time is BDSM.
Yeah.
The chances of bumping in randomly to somebody else that has that same interest.
But I think you have a point, Elizabeth, but this kind of, like, if you look at the structure of the way this is being told, is like they're telling the story of how they got together basically, and he's telling this history of, I suppose he's telling this history of Ali, and that is linked in with the BDSM stuff. And so he's got other interests he's just not mentioning in this interview. That's the story is basically based on him having this interview.
Yeah,
so maybe he's leaving stuff out because he doesn't think it's relevant to the plot. I don't know.
I feel like there's a case to be made too, though, that his crafting is separate to the BDSM. Even though all his crafting is about BDSM, it's still like a separate set of skills.
It's a creative hobby kind of building stuff, not just, That's true.
Just some thoughts.
No, I agree. I totally agree. I think that there's scope for it to be there. I'm looking for answers as to why he's such a loner at that early stage, basically. I'm trying to figure it out. And that's like why the OneNote thing sort of jumped out at me, because I was like, if that's the only thing you're interested in, yeah, it would be hard to have a lot of friends at that time in life. But yeah, anyway, I don't know the real answer behind this, and perhaps it's, especially because this is one book into many, there's a very good chance that there's a lot of character development to come that we're just not seeing. Because even if you think Sunstone, I think at the end of book 1, I don't feel like we knew a lot about Ali even at that stage.
No. And I think we might have even had that conversation. I know it's a while ago, but I feel like that might have happened. And I think maybe the people who had read ahead would be like, don't worry, keep reading. So we didn't have to worry about it. Yeah.
I've been trying to convince Nye to read
that
these.
this time.
Yeah. I feel like I really wanted to convince Nye to read these books because I'm like, they're fantastic. They're such a good little story, especially the Sunstone 5. But I can't get him to read them. Can't. He won't touch them. The BDSM thing turns him off straight away. It's the BDSM thing, yeah. It's 100% that. I mean, look, honestly, probably romance in general wouldn't appeal to him, but I'm just like, it's not that long. Just read it that you really like it. And it's great artwork, and that he loves great artwork. But yeah, I feel like the BDSM bit just turns him off entirely. So
it's a shame.
Okay, I've just drunk 3 shots of vodka. I'm really dizzy. I apologise if I'm overly chatty because of the vodka.
That is too many vodkas all at once. Bad mouth. No cookie.
I know. I definitely.
Well, no, a cookie might help though. Like
soak up some of the alcohol.
Stop it. You shouldn't have a cookie. You should have a loaf of bread. That's the
got
true
a whole loaf
way.
of bread.
So what you're telling me?
Didn't you ever do that when you were drunk? At like 18, where you like ate a whole loaf of bread?
With rice,
I never did that. No,
I did it in Japan.
Because it soaks up the alcohol for reals.
Yeah. In Japan, they make you eat a bowl of plain rice. So same thing, right?
Maybe that's why I always get hungover. I never tried that. I used to just do the Macca's run at 3 a.m. and then cry because there was no soft serve, because the soft serve machine was always broken at 3 a.m. Like, what?
It's going to be a 15-minute wait for apple pies. Why? Who's gotten an apple pie in the last 4 hours?
I can tell you the answer to that one because I used to work at McDonald's. It's because they take ages to cook and they only cook them when someone orders them because they hardly ever get ordered.
That's stupid. Just have them ready.
They're not allowed to. They're not allowed to cook.
But don't they last for like 4 hours or something?
I don't. They've changed it recently that they don't keep things anywhere near as long now, because now it's all fresh and like, yeah.
It's an apple pie. I don't expect it to be fresh.
I don't go to McDonald's for fresh food.
No,
I go there because I need grease.
I know. But that's the reason.
I've had vodka. You're gonna make me laugh for a long time.
But yeah, that's probably why the Macca's run never worked as well as eating a loaf of bread, because it's so full of grease it can't
It's got no more room to suck.
Oh God, Mel's gone.
So going on to the other relationship, back to the comment.
Stop it.
How did we all feel about how Ali found Laura?
Laura, yes.
Like found Laura and sort of.
I was kind of expecting that she would end up with the lead singer, so I was actually glad that they detoured there, and that it ended up being like a fellow fan rather than like a rock star.
Yeah, I was glad for that too, because I was kind of like, I don't know. I felt like the rock star would have been a very unbalanced relationship.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I'm back. I'm okay.
Maybe it's because I'm not 19 anymore, but I really, really would have gotten sick of her shit a lot sooner than she did.
Yeah. You also have, I think, let's take into that. I would have been just like, okay.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
This evening. But I would have been like exactly how she did it. I would have just suffered through it and then been like, right, okay, I understand that this is not going to work, and moved on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I probably would have too. I'm just
I think I just would have been like, Okay, bye. I'm done with your shit now.
Mm.
Got it, you're not interested. Cool, bye.
I mean, I could see, probably because of his writing, why you would do it earlier, but I think that's just not how I work. So,
Oh no, what I mean is just as a me lady, if I was hitting on a her lady and her lady was like making fun of me because I was 19, I'd be like, okay, that's fine.
That's
done.
fine.
okay,
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
back at the beginning bit, you mean?
Oh yeah. And I was like, it was fine at the beginning where she was like, oh, I'm worried now that you're underage. It's like, okay, that's a reasonable worry.
Yeah, no, that's
But then
reasonable.
once that was sorted, she still kept harping on about it and acting like, and like, how old was she?
22.
22.
Yeah,
Oh,
I remember
three-year
going,
age
oh,
gap.
like
Remember
maybe
it
it's because
wasn't
I'm really
17
old.
with my
I was like,
23-year-old boyfriend. Like,
yeah.
I feel like though
Yeah.
that was just supposed to be a running gag kind of thing. Like I try not to take that seriously.
And I suppose it was supposed to be, yeah, like you said, one of those jokes that it didn't feel as friendly as maybe
No.
it was supposed to come off.
But I feel like
I don't know.
Laura's
I just
not
know
exactly
I
a
personally
soft
wouldn't have put
person.
up with it. I would have
Yeah.
been like, bye, bitch.
maybe it's because we're baby-faced people who constantly get questioned about our age.
I wish
That
I had
could
that
be it.
problem.
Fair enough. That's fair point.
I had that problem for a long time into my 20s. And yeah.
That's a
So
fair concern. Yeah. I feel like though, I just wouldn't have even pursued, but maybe that's something to do with being that young.
Maybe. I think it's probably a personality thing. I don't think I would have at that age, and I wouldn't now. And not just the age thing, but also the thing that would have got me was not the age making fun of thing. It would have been the dinner, when they had dinner and she was like talking about herself and saying, asking her questions, and she was just like not saying it. I would have been like, I probably would have taken that as a sign of she's just putting up with me and doesn't really want to be with me because she's not opening up to me. So,
and I know that she came back at the end and she was like, oh, it's because I've had, a bad relationship and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no. Like, she was trying to get you to open up.
The wrong way.
Like she
It's
wasn't
not a good
expecting you
sign.
to pour your heart out. But, like, answer some. Like, what are you into other than heavy metal? Like, what do you do with your life? Like, it's not like she's asking you for your heartfelt answers about different. Yeah, like, talk to someone like you would meeting a new stranger.
I feel like though
Your
it didn't
favourite
bother
colour.
me so much just purely because I know this relationship must be doomed in some way.
yeah, that's a good point. Like, you're
That is
like,
true.
well, I know that this is not going to work out. So here are all the warning signs.
Yeah, and she's clearly just ignoring the warning signs, which I guess when you're 19, you tend to
That's
do.
understandable.
When
right?
you're 19 and you only just realised you're bi and this is your first same-sex relationship.
Yeah,
For
and
sure.
I mean, why wouldn't you keep going just because, hey, let's have some fun? I don't feel like she's sort of feeling like this is forever or anything, even though she's using lovey-dovey language. It's teenage, early stages of lovey-dovey.
I don't think that she thinks it'll last forever, but, like, give a little bit. Like, I gave more to my boyfriend than I had when I was 15 about myself than she was giving at that dinner.
Oh, yeah, God, yeah. But
You know what I mean?
I mostly enjoyed from that story was actually Anne and Cassie. I thought that was the best part of that story, was just seeing their relationship and how they interact with each other. And in fact, I even loved Cassie meeting her future husband at the concert. That was fantastic as well.
Yes, that was really cute. That I did like. I would like to hear more of their story. If we could have their story as well, that'd be...
It's coming up.
Yeah, I know, but it's not soon enough. I want it now.
I thought we were actually getting Alan's other ex first.
Oh,
maybe first, but they've got like a long-term plan for a bunch of different couples.
Oh, good.
Those were the two that I was looking forward to, and that's why I was like...
Oh, I thought it was only going to be the three, so that's why I thought that I was a bit concerned about saying that. But I'm very happy to hear that it's going to be more than that, because I think it would be great to see it come, like especially the BDSM element coming from an established couple choosing to go and to explore something that they hadn't tried before. and seeing how it works for them. I think that'd be a really great angle to take with all of this.
I really wanted that story.
I'm actually wondering whether this story is going to turn out to be couple tried BDSM and decided it wasn't for them.
Oh, right, yeah, for Alan and Anne.
For Alan and Anne.
That would make sense to me. Because Alan's already expressed at the end of Sunstone the fact that he's really not into it anymore.
And she is all about the fashion rather than like the lifestyle necessarily. And I mean, I imagine that they will go into some of that. But
which makes sense, right? Like from the perspective of them going to the nightclub and dressing up, but not necessarily engaging in it in the personal time.
Yeah. So and they're also planning an arc with the owner of the Crimson.
Oh, now so that'll be good, especially because we really know nothing about that storyline.
I imagine by the time it gets here, we might know a little more.
That's true. Possible. Very true. I'm just glad that he's really sort of planning to tell a whole heap of different stories, because that's one of the things I was thinking as I was doing this rereading this time, is that if nothing else, it's a really good way of showing not only how BDSM can works better and works well and all of that sort of stuff, but also just lots of different stories about how people end up there.
I like... Sorry, go ahead, Kristen.
No, you go.
I was just going to say that he's going a really traditional romance route, where you introduce a couple, you introduce a bunch of their friends, and then you show how they all hook up.
That is very much like that, yeah.
I think I like that it's showing lots of different types of relationships, and like that different types of relationships work for different people, and that what works for these guys is not going to work for those people, and that's okay because everybody is different. Like I like that it's showing lots of different types of relationships in positive ways. And I think maybe that's why I was looking forward to some of these other stories rather than like getting the backstories of two relationships that aren't going to work out. Maybe that's the thing I didn't like about it the most.
Yeah,
I think that could be what it is. Not that they're having sex just as friends for fun, but that relationship sort of, like, I suppose they stayed friends, but that relationship in its form didn't continue the way it was, and then the other two definitely aren't going to continue the way their relationship is not going to work out. So I kind of like the happy ending. I want to read about the stuff that didn't work. I want to get the happy ending.
No, I agree. So that's what I enjoyed with the Sunstone stuff, was while we did get all of that backstory, we also were having the romantic story the whole way through to sort of pull you through it.
Yeah. And it was like, oh, I don't even have to worry because I know it's going to work out because they told me that on the first issue right at the beginning. Like, I know that it was good that I was like, you know, everything is going wrong and she's moved out and they've done, you know, I don't have to worry about it because I know it's going to work out. I like it.
Again, very traditional romance.
Yeah.
Thing with romance novels, it's, you know, that's going to work out because it's a romance novel, whereas this, because it's comic, he's flagging it at the beginning so you know where you're at. Naomi, were you trying to jump in with something that you wanted to say?
Yeah, I was just going to say that I appreciated more the story between Ali and Alan than I did with Anne and Laura. Like, I enjoyed learning more about those two characters because I'm invested in those two characters more than I am with Anne, who I am invested with, and just some random person I know is going to disappear.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yes, it's good to see the mirror of the two relationships they're having, but also, I don't care about you. Bye, Laura. Please get out of my life.
See, it's funny because I actually feel almost the reverse of that, because I already had enough information for myself, possibly because of being who I am, about their relationship. I didn't mind getting some more, but I felt like it was much more than I needed. Whereas I actually enjoyed learning so much more about Anne, because Anne's role and what we learned about her in Sunstone was very minimal. And I felt like I enjoyed learning so much more about her.
This is actually why I thought it was really well structured, because the alternating perspectives between Alan and Anne, you get some new material with Anne to kind of counterbalance the stuff that we already know coming from Alan. And so in that sense, I thought it was really clever. Plus, having Anne as a perspective, it puts her on more equal footing with Alan. Like, she's not just some like side character anymore. She's a main character now.
Yeah.
And she's
I guess
equal
she should
to
be.
Alan in that sense.
That's a good point.
I feel like if they wanted me to care about her, like Laura, not Anne,
Yeah.
they should have made her, I don't know, more. I don't know. I just,
to be fair,
I
you
feel
can tell it's
disconnected
doomed.
to her. Yeah, but I mean, like, I just feel really disconnected to her just because we don't know her. We don't have any thoughts or feelings about her, and I just don't care. Which I know is really sad, but I don't.
Yeah.
I honestly wouldn't be surprised though if that relationship barely lasts into the next book.
Yeah, I kind of think that it. Well, it's kind of hard to say because, like, I kind of think it's by design because obviously she's not going to stick around, and there's still a lot of territory to cover.
Oh, I just feel like perhaps there might be multiple relations. So Alan, pretty much we know he's going to essentially go from Ellie to probably, honestly, I can't remember her name. Is it Miriam?
No, that's not right either. There's remember in Sunstone there was that reporter chick who came to the BDSM club, and it was
Do you
like,
really feel like we're going to get a lot of that? That felt like it was very short and not as significant as what's her face with the two coloured home.
She was the one from college, wasn't she?
yeah.
But she was already she was from college from the fact that she was tormenting him, not like he had a relationship with him.
No, that's what I mean. Like, I don't want to know about her because she's a bitch.
But they do have a relationship. So you remember when he's starting out the story, he goes with the Christmas tales analogy. You have the ghost of relationships past.
I forgot about that.
I'm pretty sure she was the ghost of relationships present.
You're right. She
And
was.
then
I remember that now.
Anne is the ghost of relationship future.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think we will actually see from her.
More of her. Okay,
More of
fair
her,
enough.
yeah.
Fair enough.
Which means,
oh my God, I'm so dizzy.
which means they're gonna have to find a way to introduce more material for Anne's story as well before she and Alan really hook up. So whether that is like a different relationship entirely, or whether they'll focus on her friendship with Cassie, but they're going to have something for her while that's going on for Alan.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And how about those segues?
You made us all think. That's why we're all like.
And I'm asking for toast because I am way too dizzy.
Did we want to wrap up? Do people have more to say, or shall we have mercy on Mel?
Fair point. I mean,
I feel like without another comic to sort of give us more thing, there's not a lot to say because it is just one volume.
Well, I was going to ask, did we want to talk about the end of Sunstone at all? Since we never did really a hangout based on that, so.
I don't remember the end of Sunstone.
What happened at the end of Sunstone? They all lived happily ever after the end.
I know, that's what I'm like.
Happily
I don't know
for
if
now.
I have any other thoughts other than like.
I remember we read it on the couch together like 2 years ago.
Yes.
Okay, fair
It's
enough.
been too long for most of the others, I think, Mel.
I reread it like last week, but
Okay.
I think I've probably said a lot of my thoughts about Sunstone throughout this hangout anyway, but
Look, honestly, I'm just like, it's a really good romance. Everybody read it, so whatever.
yeah. That's what I mean. It's like, but that's the problem we always have when we all enjoyed something. We're all like, it was really good. And we all go, yeah. And then it's like, yeah. Whereas when we all hate something, we talk about it for ages.
Or have conflicting opinions.
Yeah.
Or even just like lukewarm on things. Like we don't have to hate it, but if we're like not 100% I love it,
Yes.
Yeah.
and we have a lot to talk about. But if we all love it, we're all like, I love that book. It was good. It was a good book. 5 stars. And then we have nothing else to say because we all agree.
Yeah.
Whereas
Although
in this one too.
I must admit, nothing is as good as when you really didn't like it, especially when Naomi gets started on Brisbane's landscape.
Hey, that was one time, and I get very defensive when someone who fucking lives there can't work it out. Like, you live
I
there,
don't disagree.
get in your car and go for a fucking drive.
What was this?
I really want to read it now, just because now I've lived here for like 2.5 years.
What was it?
It was terrible in other ways too.
Oh,
It was a book called Flesh.
Flesh?
So
we read
bad.
it for Lud.
It was the worst. It was really
no, we
bad.
didn't read it for Lud. That was for vaginal fantasy.
It was.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Elizabeth, whatever you do, don't read it. Just don't.
no.
I mean, like,
It wasn't
it's
just the
bad.
bad geography.
It's trash.
Like it was very misogynist, and it was bad writing, and also someone setting a book in a city that they seem to either not. I reckon she never went to Ipswich, because that's pretty much where it was set. The town that she set it in is a town in Ipswich.
No, she lives on the north side. She lives on the north
She's
side. They
probably
don't
never
leave the
been
north
to
side.
Ipswich.
Oh, she's never been over here then.
Every time I drive,
She's never been south of the city. She may have been to Indooroopilly once, but Northsiders don't go any further west than that because they're Northsiders.
and because
Oh,
Ipswich
dear.
is Ipswich, and who would want to? But like, I drive through that town
what
all
did
the
I
time.
start? What
I drive through it all the time, and every time I'm doing it, I'm thinking I should film this one day and just like send it to people and go, look, it looks nothing like she described.
Okay, time, guys. How about we wrap up and then we can continue this elsewhere.
Okay. Okay. Sorry, that was just hilarious. All right. Thank you everybody who joined us for watching tonight. We really enjoyed having you. I hope you laughed as much as I did.
Not sure anybody did that, but
Oh God, no! It's virtually impossible. But you never know. All right. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.
bye.
Bye.